Okay, shall we get started? Okay. Well, I want to welcome everyone to the Aspen Club tonight. And my name is Joe Kistner. My wife and I have the Kistner Institute in Aspen. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a brief overview of what my method is all about and kind of give you a slideshow, and then I'm going to show you a demonstration. And if you'd like to participate, you're more than welcome to do so. And then if you'd like me to check your shoes to see if they're causing any problems in your nervous system, I'll do that at the end. So a little bit of background about about myself. I originally started out as a pharmacist. So that was my original profession. And then back in the 80s, I'm skiing and I received a shoulder dislocation from a fall. And a friend of mine had a book called Touch for Health. And she said, "Oh, you should check this out." So we were playing around with it, and it actually tests your muscles to see if you've lost some strength from an injury. And then it helps to reconnect those. So we started testing some muscles around my shoulder, and sure enough, everything was weak. We massaged a couple points, and all of a sudden, wow, I had strength in those muscles that I didn't have before. So I was really intrigued about this. And lo and behold, a week or two later, there was a lady coming through teaching that class in Touch for Health. So I was really fascinated by the whole process. I took the class, I went to Pasadena, to California, and became a Touch for Health instructor. And then after that, I got into body work. I went down to the Boulder School of Massage and started studying all these different methods of how to address the muscles, always going after those tight areas of pain, trigger points, always trying to find what was causing the pain in the muscles. But over time, I came to understand that a lot of this occurs via the nervous system. So why is the nervous system? Why is that important? So one of the most important things to understand about your body is that it is largely governed by the nervous system, or the CNS. The CNS is composed of your brain, the spinal cord, and then the nerves that all go out into your body. And the CNS will decide strength, flexibility, your movement, coordination. It decides your posture, and it'll decide if you have pain or not. Now, what are the primary tasks of the central nervous system? So one of the first things is that it receives input from the receptors throughout the body via the afferent nerves. So you're getting all this input into your body, and this is coming from your skin, which measures hot and cold, pressure. It also measures stretch and noxious stimuli. And then we also have those receptors in our joints that tells us where we are in space and how we're moving. And then there's also receptors in the muscles, the muscle spindles and the Golgi tendon organs. They also give us a positional awareness where we are in space and how we're moving through space. And they also help to protect our muscles and ligaments by shutting down if we're going to get injured. Okay. And then combine that with all the visual and the vestibular information. So we're receiving a ton of information from all these sources telling us where we are. And then the next thing that happens is that our brain is going to interpret all this information. And then it's going to decide, okay, how are we going to move depending on this information? So it creates an output. These are motor patterns and reflexes. It may have a visceral response into our stomach, heart function, and blood pressure. It's all coming in. Our brain decides what's going on, and then it produces an output and a movement. It's a loop system. And the quality of the output, how you move, is always dependent upon the quality of the input that you receive. And one of the priorities of the central nervous system is to protect you. It wants to keep you alive at all costs. It knows nothing of performance. All it knows is about survival. And these survival mechanisms are hardwired into the nervous system to protect you from your body from physical damage. One of the things that it does is that it has a startle reflex. So when something's coming at you that you're not ready for, you have that reaction built into your reflexes. I don't know if you saw it in the news, I think it was yesterday, there was a story about a father and his son went to I think it was in the maybe Phoenix area where they're the spring baseball league. And anyways, the batter was up swinging his bat, it flew out of his hands. And if you look at all the people around where that bat was coming, they were all, crouching down. And the interesting thing is the father overrode his threat response and put his hand out over where that bat was just about getting ready to hit his son and saved his son and deflected the bat. But everybody else around him, they were all in that position. So that's the startle reflex. And then it also can alter motor patterns. So if you have an injury, especially in your leg, you're going to start limping, and that's your nervous system trying to protect you from further damage. And then some other things is that it will produce weakness. If you've ever injured your shoulder, you know that you can't lift as much as you want to because that shoulder's injured. So that nervous system, that's producing that weakness, so you don't tear the shoulder up more. Another one that it will do is cause stiffness. So your shoulder, if it's injured, it's usually kind of stiff. You can't move it very well. You have a limited range of motion. That's your nervous system protecting you again. And then you also can have pain. So you put your shoulder in a certain position, it's like, oh, that hurts. That's your body telling you, your nervous system telling you, oh, don't go there, because that's going to tear your shoulder up more. So why is this important? If you have an issue that you've been struggling with, like a bad shoulder, bad back, a bad knee, and you're unable to reach your performance goals, this is all part of the central nervous system that's creating that. So you've either got an input problem, or you've got an interpretation problem, or an output problem. But there's also something else that you have to consider, is you may have a real injury. So when I see someone, I always ask them, have you had an MRI, or have you had a picture taken of your joint? Because if you do have an injury, that has to be addressed, and you may have to actually see, a health professional to get that fixed. But is it a defect or a defense? So what that means is, do you have an actual defect? Do you have a bone that's actually maybe broken a little bit, or you have a hairline fracture? Are you bone on bone? Do you have a torn ligament or a torn muscle? Those things have to be addressed. But if it's a defense, maybe you have that injury and it's your nervous system that's just trying to protect you. That I can address. It's kind of like your computer. If you have a software problem, you don't start disassembling your computer. You go in, you reboot it, you maybe change the cookie setting and stuff. You don't start disassembling your computer. The same thing here. If you have a defense, that's something that we can maybe change through the nervous system. So now, what causes your body to lose that communication between the muscles and the brain? Stress. Now that comes in a lot of different forms. One of them is mechanical stress, which I just mentioned, trauma, injury, surgery, repetitive strain, overuse, poor posture, or even a lack of movement. If you're sitting all day long and you're not moving, a lot of times that can cause a break in that communication, and then that sets up a whole set of other muscles that may play off of that. This can also come from biomechanical stress, food allergies, sensitivities, hormonal imbalances. If you're overtraining, creating a lot of cortisol in your body, that can also break those communication pathways. And emotional stress, financial, relationship, loss of a loved one. that plays heavily into your nervous system. And if that stress is large enough, that will break some of those brain-muscle connections. So now the musculoskeletal response to the stress. What happens? Stress that interferes or disrupts the communication between the brain and the muscles, that's going to affect your coordination. It's going to create muscle imbalances. Those muscle imbalances, they then feed back into your body, into the nervous system, and they may cause compensations and imbalances in other parts of the body. So this leads to a biomechanical instability throughout the body, and it affects performance, and it'll increase the possibility of an injury. So one of the last therapy modalities that I studied was muscle activation techniques. And that was all about testing muscles again. I kind of went full circle from the beginning to the end. And over the years, I thought, well, I wonder if there is a pattern to these communication breaks. So I started testing a lot of different muscles, upper body, lower body, and I started seeing a pattern emerging. What I found is that a lot of those dysfunctions would occur in the lower left side and then cross over to the upper right side. Now there were variations, of course, because everybody's different, have different, injuries, but it was the main thing that I saw was lower left, upper right, and I couldn't figure out, why am I seeing this? So then I took a class, and this was probably in around 2005, 2007, and there was a gentleman there, he's a doctor, which is all about movement and how that affects how your body connects. And he had this picture in the book. And this is called the back force transmission system. So what this is depicting is the force that comes up through your body when you walk. So the first thing that hits the ground is your heel, goes up the leg, crosses over the sacrum, goes up the opposite side of your back, out to the shoulder and up into your neck. So that's what I was seeing. So that's all about gait, how you walk. So why would that be important? So why is gait important? It's the single most complex motor function of the human body. It involves half the body's 650 muscles and 200 bones, along with a large share of joints and ligaments. And here's a quote by Dr. Cobb that had this class. It said, in most cases, gait is the single strongest, most chronic full body loading event our bodies undergo. So if you want to fix both short and long-term problems, as well as increase performance and efficiency, fix the gait. So now we're talking about gait. Let's talk about the mathematics of gait. What are we talking here? How much of this force is actually going up through the body? So during normal walking gait, we strike the ground with 2 to 3 times our body weight. But let's multiply this out. So a 200-pound man who hits the ground with twice his body weight, if you do the math, ends up on a daily basis 1,200,000 pounds of force going up through your body that your body's supposed to be absorbing and dissipating. But if you've got that little break, that's creating all sorts of havoc. So it may start out as just a little maybe hip injury, but then as you're walking, that starts to unwind your whole gait pattern. It's kind of like all your muscles that are involved in gait, they work as an orchestra. And if one person in the orchestra is playing out of tune, it starts affecting the other players around them. And then pretty soon, the whole orchestra is out of tune. And this is what happens with gait. So you can see why a small movement issue could become a major problem over a short period of time. It doesn't take long. So now, why are our feet important? Well, one of the main things during gait, the foot is the only body part that comes in contact with the ground. So the brain relies heavily on information from the foot to coordinate the movement at other joints in the body. It's not an exaggeration to say that if your foot is not functioning properly, then no other joint in your body is functioning properly either. Our feet are our foundation. So what I always tell people, I say, if you've got a crack going up the walls of your house, I mean, you can patch that crack and paint over it, but it's going to come back because the crack's not the problem. Your foundation of your house is off creating those cracks. So if you have a knee problem, an ankle problem, a hip problem, shoulder problem, lower back, those are your cracks. So what we want to do is get your foundation strong, and you'll see how my method combines how the foot is functioning with all the muscles in the body, how they're functioning. And here's kind of a depiction of that. So here's where the foot is in pronation. I don't know if anybody knows that term, but you can see how when the foot rolls in, if you've got a fallen arch, or if you tend to roll your foot in, that just doesn't stop there. It goes up to the tib fib, rolls that in, creates a mistracking in the knee, which also turns the femur in, creating a dysfunction in the hip. And you can see how that pulls the hip down, and then that cross shoulder is also going to come down with it. So that little foot problem can go all the way through your body. Now let's talk about the feet. So when we were born, this is what your feet look like. But I want you to notice where the toes are. So you got that nice tripod. Heel, toe out there, toe here. Everything is spread out. So you got a nice big tripod. But by age 2 and 3, maybe 4, you start wearing shoes. So what are the effect of shoes? Let's see. So these are some feet from people that haven't worn shoes. This one's pretty extreme, but you can see how wide their feet are. And then here's a depiction of when your foot is unshod. But now look at when we started wearing shoes. What's happening there? You see how that toe, big toe comes over, the little toe gets squished in. Anybody have, any neuromas or bunions? Those are all created from shoes. Over decades, we are deforming our feet. Okay? And here's what's happening. Our footwear is doing that. So here's a couple things, and this looks like a normal shoe, doesn't it? So what we have here, and the first thing is everybody's got a heel. I don't know if you know a little bit of the history of why we have heels, but back in the 9th century, the Persian horsemen, when they go into battle, they would be shooting their bows and arrows while standing up on their horses in the saddle. And they found out that to be more stable, they put a heel on their shoe to hold them in the stirrups. That's where it started. And then the Persians went into Europe, and this was during the reign of King Louis XIV, around 1600. Everybody in Europe wanted to follow the culture of the Persians, so they started wearing heels. And because Louis XIV was very small in stature, of course he had a lot more big heel on his shoes to make him look taller, and so all the upper class started picking up on that, and they started wearing all these shoes with heels. And then the women picked up on that, and then the men decided, well, we're not interested anymore, but the women took it over, and today that's what we're doing now. That's why we have heels. There is no scientific basis to have a heel on your shoe. Then the other characteristic is a toe spring. So the first shoes were pretty stiff, and so to come over your foot, they put a toe spring in there so you could come over your foot easier. But what that's doing is creating a lot of different problems. So you have that heel, and what that does is it shifts your weight forward. And so let me show you this. When you have a heel on your shoe, you don't lean over like this. You make adjustments so you can stand up straight. And I want to show you this. This is your tib fib resting on your talus bone. It's in a nice stable position. And I want to show you the talus bone. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's tapered in the back here. So it gets narrower towards the back. So when you have a heel on your shoe, and I'm going to kind of exaggerate this, and you're standing like this, you're not going to lean out here. You're going to make the adjustment and come back on that talus bone to the narrower part of the talus. So now you're in an unstable position. Of course you're going to roll your ankle out, or you're going to fall inward. That's what that's causing. And then you have your heel, which is forcing the weight down into your toes, and that causes all sorts of problems as far as capsulitis, and a lot of forward foot issues stem from that, neuromas. And then couple that with the toe spring, which brings your toes up towards the ceiling. So all the muscles that have tendons that go right to the tip of your toes on the top, they get shorter. And the tendons that go to the muscles on the bottom, they get all stretched out. So you're creating all these imbalances in these muscles. And then the other thing that creates all sorts of problems is we have our toes tapered together. So that also puts a strain on all these little joints here, especially on the big toe and the little toe. So you have a tailor's bunion, or you have this bunion of your big toe, all because your shoes over time have squeezed your toes together. And what that does to your arch when that toe is over here is that makes your arch more vulnerable to collapsing, because you don't have that toe coming out in a straight force, in a straight line. So now I want to show you, I'm going to set up a table here. And if someone would like to see what this looks like, I'll give you a demonstration.
It's got a...
Is that okay?
No, it's got to go between the X there.
What's that? Does anybody have an issue, a lower back problem? Okay, come on, take your top off there and then take your shoes off. So have you had any injuries?
I've had my right ankles.
Your right ankle is going to be fine. Have you had a picture of it or x-rays of it? Okay. Feels good now? Okay. So because of, that issue in her lower right leg there, I don't go after that lower right leg. I want to see how did her body respond to that. So I go through a complete assessment, and I'm going to do a little short and abbreviated session here, but kind of give you an idea of what I see and how I correct it. So we're going to start up here. I just want to see how her upper body is doing. So I'm going to put her body in a whole bunch of different positions. Each position emphasizes a muscle. And then I want to see, can she communicate to that muscle to contract it? And the way I test that is I'm going to push or pull a little bit on her limbs to see, does she have a good connection? Can I feel a good contraction? If not, that means that she's got to compensate for that lack somewhere else. So there may be some imbalances that we're going to discover. And it's very objective. I have no idea what I'm going to see. Okay? So I want you to side bend your spine down toward me with your elbow right next to your hip. Let your forearm just rest out. And then don't pull out on your elbow. Okay, hold this. And that feels pretty good. I feel her connect with that pretty easily. Come back to center. Arm straight out. Thumb roll down. Hold your arm in this position. Don't pull your arm down towards your feet. And then with your palm up, hold your arm on the table. Don't let me lift it up towards the ceiling. And then arm back here. Thumb rolled back to the floor. Lock your elbow. Don't let me lift up. And then with your arm down at your side, thumb rolled down, arm rolled in. Don't let me lift your arm up. And you feel the difference? Don't let me lift up. So she's lost that connection. This is her lat muscle, but she's lost that connection in her muscle. Does that have anything to do with her foot? Maybe. I don't know. But we need to address her whole body to find out what's all involved with this. Her ankle is just the symptom. The cause may be somewhere else. I have no idea. So we found that. So let's just check this on that muscle on this side. Thumb rolled down, arm rolled in. Don't let me lift up. And you can feel how that just locks right in. So I'm going to check some other muscles down in your lower body here. I'm going to use your legs to test some of these. So I want you to bend this knee and bring your leg all the way across. Let your hip come up as your knee comes over toward me. So right there. Hold that, Anna. I'm going to brace on your hip. Don't let me push your knee back over to the right. Hold this. Let's do that with the left side over. So bring that left leg over. Hold this. Don't let me push your knee back over to the left. And I'm not going to strain you, but you feel how you don't have that connection. That's a muscle in her core on the lower left side. Let's check another core muscle. So Anna, I want you to hold on to the sides of the table, just so you don't slide back and forth, because I'm going to take your legs up here to the right. Don't let me pull your legs over to the left. So you got to hold on. Hold this over. Don't let me pull. Now we're going to go over to the left. Don't let me pull your legs back over to the right. You feel you have no connection there. Another muscle on that lower left side. Let's check your hip flexors. So bring this right leg up straight first. Roll it out. Hold this up. Don't let me push your leg back to the table. Hold this. Out a little bit. Don't let me push it down and out. Feel how that just locks right in? Let's do that with the left leg up. Roll this out. Don't let me push down. And you feel how that's just loose. Out here, don't let me push down and out. Yeah.
Hold up.
So now let's check some of the muscles on the sides of your hips. I'll check a few on this right side. So with your leg out here, knee locked in, don't let me push your leg back to the middle. Just hold it out. And then roll this in. Don't let me push in. Okay, bring this leg up, foot turned out. Don't let me push in. Roll this leg in. Don't let me push in. Now over here, don't let me push straight down. Cross your leg over. Don't let me uncross. Roll your leg to the outside. Don't let me uncross. Ready? And then don't let me push down and out. That's pretty stable around that hip, isn't it? Let's try that on the left side. Bring your leg out, knee locked in. Hold that out, don't let me push into the middle. Once more. And you can feel how you can't connect with that. Roll your leg in. Don't let me push in. Yeah. Nothing happening there. How about up here? Don't let me push in. Foot turned in. Don't let me push in. Don't let me push down and in. And you feel how that's all unstable. Hold this up. Don't let me push down. Roll your leg in. Don't let me push down. Cross your leg over. Keep your knee locked in. Don't let me uncross your leg. Roll your leg to the outside. Don't let me uncross. And don't let me push down and out. So now I want to see, is this pattern in her spine? So I'm going to check her spine now. So I want you to hold on again to the sides of the table. With your legs over here to the right. I'm going to brace on your hip this time. Don't let me pull your legs over to the left, towards me. Okay? Hold this. Roll your right leg in. Don't let me pull left. Up here in your rib cage, don't let me pull. With your foot turned to the outside, don't let me pull. Here. And then feet straight, side bend your spine to the right. Don't let me pull left. And I'm not seeing any disconnection in your spine. And the left side is usually fine too. I'm looking for that pattern. She's got it to a certain extent. Lower left, upper right. That's how we walk. That's how the force comes up and crosses over. So you've got that gait dysfunction. So this line of force going up through your body is not functioning properly. So what happens is that this side has to make up for that. So it's got to overuse a lot of its joints and muscles to kind of stabilize you. Now you may be feeling it in this ankle because of that. Or maybe your knee would be subject. Some people have knee problems or opposite side hip problems, lower back problems. It's hard to say, but that's what's driving a lot of the people's injuries. Now I want to show you, before I correct her through the foot, I want to show you what happens when I just get, and you can see her feet. See how her toes are pointed in? So just this last year, I started working with a podiatrist. He's a sports podiatrist. And he discovered, and his name's Ray McClanahan. He's in Portland, Oregon. And he has invented a little device. It's similar, well, these are called correctos. And it's similar to Invisalign. I don't know if you ever had your teeth straightened, but they put these braces on and it straightens your teeth. He invented these that you put in between your toes to straighten your toes out. But I want to show you what I discovered when I had a patient put these on. So you notice all those weaknesses. And just by, I'm going to see what size you take here. you may take a small. So I'm going to realign her toes back into their anatomical shape that they should naturally be in. You remember those pictures of the feet around the world that people don't wear shoes? So if I just get her toes, yeah, medium is good for you. Spread apart. Watch what happens to how her firing pattern is. Hold this out. Don't let me push in.
Wow.
Roll this leg in. Don't let me push in. Up here, roll this out. Toes pointed out. Don't let me push in. Roll this in. Don't let me push in. Now this one's still not quite there yet. You may have to have these on for a while. Hold on to the sides of the table. Keep your legs over here to the right, left. Don't let me pull right. And you feel how you can control that now? Let's just check your shoulder here. Thumb roll down, arm roll in. Don't let me lift up on your arm. Yeah.
Wow.
Now if I take that out, this is the wild way. So if I take that out between her toes, don't let me lift up.
Yeah. Oh. We pulled her off the front line for this. Anna, are you
Just-
trying? No, I
Are you faking that? Just
If you want, you can experience it.
won't.
But this is what, I will actually correct you through your nervous system, but I always recommend buying these. Ideally, you start wearing these and transitioning your toes back into their normal anatomical shape. Start out by just wearing them for 30 minutes one day and then 60 minutes. So ideally, what you want to be able to do is have a shoe that will accommodate them. This is an Ultra. It has a wide toe box.
That looks like my bowling shoes.
Yep. Where you wear toe socks and then you put the separators in there, the correct toes. So you want to be weight bearing, but that you have to transition into. You can't just start, using these right away. But ideally, that's what's going to give you the best balance, efficiency, coordination, because you're going to have a solid base. You got a wide tripod, so everything's going to be stable. So now I'm going to show you how I'm going to correct you. Again, this is all through your feet. Your feet are your foundation. So lie back. There are certain muscles in the feet that connect to these muscles up through the body. So this is kind of your anchor point. If you've got a strong anchor, these muscles have something that they can pull on. But if you've got a weak anchor, they're not going to work. So I'm going to just check some muscles in your left foot here. Bend your knee, foot down. I want you to turn your foot in all the way. Now don't let me pull out on your ankle. That feels pretty good. Now I want you to flex your foot up towards the ceiling. Bring your toes out to the side. Now I want you to curl your toes down, but keep your foot up. I know it's probably hard for you to get in that position, and this is probably why. Don't let me push down on your foot. And you feel how that's loose in there. So now all I have to do to reconnect that muscle to her brain is move the skin over where that muscle attaches. Because the nerves that come in down into that muscle, they don't stop at the muscle. They continue on, and they're right underneath the skin. So if I move the skin, that's stimulating those nerve endings that go into the muscle, go up to her leg, up the spinal cord to the brain, and reconnect that loop. So all I'm going to do is all I have to do is just move the skin over where that muscle attaches. And then the other attachment is on the top of her foot. Okay, bend your knee, flex your foot up, turn it out, curl your toes down, a little easier this time. Don't let me push down. And now she can resist me. Turn this foot in. Don't let me pull out. That one seems good. So just getting her foot a little more stable. Let's see what that does to the firing of her muscles up through her body. So bring this leg out, knee locked in. Don't let me push in. Roll your leg in. Don't let me push in. And then up here, foot turned out. Don't let me push into the middle. Foot turned in. Don't let me push in. And you feel how that's still not quite there yet? So that just tells me that she's lacking a little more stability in her ankle. So I go back down. Her nervous system will show me where it needs more stability. So bend this knee, foot down, turn it in. Don't let me pull out on your ankle. And now you feel how that's kind of loose there? So a different muscle showed up. Let that leg come down. I'm going to wake that muscle up. It attaches right behind the knee. I'm just moving the skin over where that muscle attaches. Also around the ankle. Bend your knee, foot turned in. Don't let me pull out. And you can feel how you can stabilize now. Let's see if that's all we needed to do. So bring this leg up, foot turned in. Don't let me push in. Yeah. Don't let me push down and in. Over here, don't let me push straight down. Leg rolled in, don't let me push down. Foot crossed over, don't let me uncross your leg. Roll your leg to the outside, don't let me uncross. And you feel how that's still not quite there yet. I just go back to the foot again, bend this knee. Foot turned in, don't let me pull out. This shows up again. So we just need to reinforce this connection for that muscle in her hip to work. Just waking it up, moving the skin. It's not any pressure at all, is it? Bend this knee. Foot turned in. Don't let me pull out. Yeah. Let's test these again over here. Don't let me uncross your leg. Roll your leg to the outside. Don't let me uncross. Don't let me push down and out. Yeah. You feel how that's different? Let's try some of these while we're up here. Roll this leg to the outside. Don't let me push down. Out here to the side. Don't let me push down. Yeah. That's all together. So bring that leg. Oh, let's check this one. Hand, hold on to the sides of the table. Keep your legs over here to the left. Don't let me pull them over to the right. Yeah, you've got that back. Bend this knee, bring your leg over. Let's check this one, this left leg. Hold this, and then don't let me push back to the left. Yeah, and you feel how that locks in. And let's see if that came over to the shoulder. Thumb rolled down, arm rolled in. Hold that, don't let me lift up. Yeah. So let's have you just walk a little bit and see how that feels so your brain can integrate those muscles back into your gait pattern. How does that feel in your right foot now?
It doesn't have that much pressure, I think.
Doesn't have as much pressure in there, does it? That's because your right foot was having to do all that work.
You're cured.
All right. And let's see how your nervous system responds to that shoe being on your foot. I was working on people and, they had bad backs or a bad hip. And I would check up on them and they'd say, my back or my hip felt really good. But as I'm walking to my car, it started coming back, and I'm like, okay, what else is going on with this? And then that's when I was like, oh, I'm getting all this great connection between the feet and the body. I wonder if the shoes are interfering. So I started out having people put on their shoes, walk around, come back, and then I retest them. And sure enough, some shoes on certain people threw them out. So if you wear those shoes, yeah, okay, you got both of them on, that's fine.
Oh.
That's fine, you're fine. So what I did, then lie on your back. And then over time, I just had people just put their shoes on and I tested them. And then it evolved into, well, just put the left shoe on because that's where your pattern starts. And we'll find out if that's interfering. So lie back, and I'm going to test your muscles again. So bring this leg up straight. Roll it out. Toes point out toward me. Hold this up. Don't let me push down.
Oh, no.
She can barely keep her leg up.
Anna, her shoes are terrible.
Hold this out to the side. Don't let me push in. So in a couple planes of motion, she cannot stabilize.
No more shoes for him.
So now, what I'm going to show you,
We all need to be at the beach.
remember that picture of the shoe. What does her shoe kind of look like? Has a heel, toe spring, and is pointing her toes together. What I found, and this may not work, I don't know, is do these have an insole? No. There's nothing I can do. So that's a problem. So I had people bring in their shoes because if they walk out in these shoes, if she walks out in these shoes, it's going to just throw her right back into that gait problem, putting more pressure into her ankle. Sorry. Sometimes I can take the insole out, and this is something that you can do also. If you're going in and buying shoes, if they have an insole, take that insole out, put it on the ground, and put your foot on top of it. If your toes are falling off the sides, when you put that shoe on, it's squeezing your foot together, pressing in on the nerves. That shoe's probably not going to be good for you. That's always a good way to test. And that's unfortunately about 90% of the shoes out there is that they have this narrow toe box. Okay? So if you've been in motion control shoes all your life, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades for us, you know, you've had a heel on your shoe that shortens those muscles in the calf area. You know, so your calf is all short, your toes are sticking up, and you have all that control that's offered by the shoe. Once you get into those toe shoes, none of that is there. So it may take up to a year for your foot to actually accommodate into those shoes. But they're exactly what you want. It's just that a lot of people went too quickly into them, and that caused problems.
After 5 or 6 miles in a day, let's say,
Yeah,
my feet, ankles are just killing me.
right.
Just killing me. But if I have really great tennis shoes with a lot of pads, a lot of thick, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem.
Well, you're not used to them having less. So you're accustomed to that. It's going to take time to get more feeling in and using your muscles in your feet more before that's going to feel good. There's a transition period. You can't just go from all that foam to nothing. Sandy, you want me to check your shoes?
Yeah, have them
Come up here and I'll show you.
I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, I was fascinated by this whole process.
I see why.
So here, lie on your back, and I'll just test a couple muscles just so you can kind of see. I'm going to take your shoes off now. So let's check. These are kind of the main ones that I usually see is in the shoulders here. So with this arm out, thumb roll down, lock your elbow in. Don't let me lift up. And you feel how, yeah.
Sandy, you're stronger than that.
Let's do that. And just so you feel on this side, don't let me lift up. And you feel how you can just lock that right in. So let's check a couple muscles down here. Bring this leg up straight. Roll it out. And then don't let me push down. Yeah. We'll do that on the left side. Bring that leg up. Roll it out. Don't let me push down. Yeah. Hold on to the sides of the table. Keep your legs over here to the left. Don't let me pull to the right. Now if I'm over here to the right, don't let me pull left. And you've got that. Let's check a couple of these. Hold this out, knee locked in. Don't let me push in.
Lisa, do you have things?
Once more. Leg on the table. Hold that. Don't let me push in. Yeah. Leg rolled in. Don't let me push in. And now up here. Hold this out. Don't let me push in. Leg rolled in. Don't let me push in. So you see again, that lower left, upper right, that's that gait pattern. So now I'm going to correct you. Bend this knee, foot down, turn it in. We'll see what muscles that's unstable in your foot that are affecting those muscles up through your body. Hold this position, don't only pull out on your ankle. And you feel how that's loose there. Let that leg come down. So I'm just going to wake that muscle up by moving the skin over where that muscle attaches.
How's it going to fit in your stilettos?
Okay, bend this knee. Foot turned in. Don't let me pull out.
That's true.
Okay, flex your foot up. Turn it out. Keep this knee straight. Curl your toes down. Don't let me push down on your foot. And you feel how that's kind of loose there too. This is where that muscle attaches, right along the side of your leg. I'm going to just wake that up. Okay, bend this knee. Flex your foot up. Turn it out. Curl your toes down. Don't let me push down. You feel how that's right there? Yeah. Foot turned in. Don't let me pull out. And that one's pretty solid. So let's test a couple of these again. Foot turned out. Don't let me push in. Leg rolled in. Don't let me push in. Now up here, foot turned out. Don't let me push in. foot turned in. Don't let me push in. Let's check these. Roll this leg out. Hold this up. Don't let me push down. Yeah. Hold on to the sides of the table. Keep your legs over here to the left. Don't let me pull to the right. And you feel how that's all turned on now? Arms straight. What's that? I don't know. Hold this. Don't let me lift up. Ready? Yeah. Good. So now let's see what effect her shoe has, if anything, on those connections. Okay. So bring this leg up again straight. Roll it out. Don't let me push down.
Sandy. Shoes are terrible.
Hold this out. Don't let me push in. Yeah. And that's what I find. Most people, they're wearing shoes that are creating all these imbalances in their body. And then they have an injury that they can't explain. How did that happen? Well, your body was susceptible because it's not working in balance.
Wow. It is very interesting.
Anybody else like to check? Are you
Well
good?
done.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
very interesting.
It was really interesting.
Well, good. Thank you. If you really want to, increase your performance, if you're an athlete or just want to stay out of pain, yes. That's why I tell people, get the correct toes, get shoes that will accommodate them, get the toe socks so you can put them on there comfortable. That's ideal. Now, some people, they have shoes that doesn't throw them out. I usually say, well, those shoes are okay. They're not great because they still have some of the characteristics. Sometimes I test people their shoes. If I just take the liner out and gives their toes a little more space, they won't, break those connections. So I always say, well, those shoes are okay for the time being, but you should transition into a better shoe that's completely flat and has a wide toe box and are flexible. So I want to show you, this is a little company that my wife and I just happened to stumble upon. They're in Montrose, Colorado, making these shoes, and they're called SOM Footwear.
SOM?
SOM, yeah. But we went in and it's a little mom and pop operation. They let us come in and see how they made their shoes. But this is what they're producing. They studied Dr. McClanahan's information all about, getting the right, toe box. So the toe box is wide, everything is flat, and they're flexible. But these are great little shoes, and they have all different patterns. These are kind of more of for a woman, but they have plain patterns for men also. But this is an example of one of the shoes. Ultra is another one. There's another company called Lems. They're all kind of getting the way your feet are actually supposed to be positioned, having their natural anatomy.
So what are your thoughts on the orthotics and the arch support and all
That
that?
was my question.
Well, a lot of times, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, once I get your body balanced, those orthotics you really don't need. They're kind of accommodating your dysfunction. They don't make any changes to the nervous system. So they help you, but once I make the changes in your nervous system, usually your body will say they don't need them anymore, because I will test you with your orthotics in and with them out, and I would say 95% of the time, maybe even more, your body is not wanting those orthotics anymore.
Interesting. Even in a ski boot?
Ski boots are a little different because you're not actually walking in them. But if those supports in your ski boot, a lot of times most of the fitters feel that if a little is good, more is better. So they may be jacking up those arches a little too much, and it may be jamming those mid-tarsal joints. But the only way I know is I check you. So you bring in your ski boot, you put it on, and I see, can you hold your leg up? Can you hold it out to the side? If you can't, that's usually telling me
It's like, I don't know.
your boots are not that good for you, and you're having to use a lot more effort to ski. Come in, see me, bring your shoes, and all I can do is just show you where you really have lost maybe those brain-body connections.
Is it ever too late to make corrections, like as far as your age
Yes.
or
Yes.
you know, obviously.
If you're,
athlete
you
that-
know, I've worked on people that, you know, they've already had, like their disc have already degenerated or they're bone on bone. You know, I needed to see these people 20 years ago because they've already, their structure has deteriorated to the point where they're going to have some surgical intervention. This is not a muscular problem. You know, this is, you know, when I was talking about, you know, is it a hardware problem or a software problem? They got a hardware problem. That's got to be taken care of. So if you come in and see me, I do the exact same assessment. You know, I have no idea what your body has done to get you to this point in time. But it'll show me. Your body, your nervous system will show us where you've lost some of those connections. Well, thank you all. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.